Salt.
Fella done me wrong. He's also a huge dork.
I don't trust men who smile too much. Good, honest hatred. Very refreshing.
You know, of the three of us, it's amazing that Core actually directly references Jason, while the other two, I just had to kind of find something that vaguely describes us in Star Trek.
I don't know. I actually kind of like the clip you got for me.
Yeah, but that doesn't even vaguely describe you.
Yeah.
Wow, you sound very low key now. Yeah. All right, so, and I'm the one that had his throat cut open, so you need to be a little more upkey than that because for me it hurts to talk. So you
Well,
need to
I'm just
be,
glad to
don't go TMI territory. I
No,
understand.
I'm just saying. I'm just glad to be here. Glad to be
Yeah.
alive.
Well, we're glad to have you.
It's a
Yeah.
day, right?
We all survived yet another week, for better or for worse, and so sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. Now Miss Moneypenny says hi to Jason. Notice she said hi to me and Danny like an hour and a half ago. So, and now so Canadians just
International texting fees,
that must be it. That must be it.
It's got to go. It's got to be Ottawa approved, with all these Canadian content rules up here.
You guys have got some weird laws.
Yeah.
But and apparently Tucker Carlson's running for president. So if he wins, I'm moving to Canada. That's it. That's just gonna happen.
Whoa! Is this real? Tucker Carlson is
No. Just some of his fans are trying to say that's why he left Fox, which is of course a load of crap.
He got fired. He didn't leave.
Yes, I know he got fired, but that's what people are trying to say in order to say that he didn't get fired, that he's actually just left to run for president, which is of course not true.
The copium runs thick sometimes.
Yes. So why are we here? We're here, we're done with The Mandalorian. We're done with Picard, and we figured that this week we would just kind of talk about the shows in retrospect, and then next week we're going to start something very different until we get to Strange New Worlds, and we'll talk about that a little bit at the end of the show. But right now we're going to talk about The Mandalorian as a full season, not just as episode by episode, so, and thank you 47 Yorktown. I may take you up on that. So 47 Yorktown's got a spare room up there in Canada. So yes, you guys may not have free speech, but you also don't have Tucker Carlson. So but the so anyway, the so I think that it's good to because like episode by episode, I know we nitpick, we tear apart, and that's what we do, and it's fun, and love it or hate it. That's if you can't stand nerds nitpicking stuff, then the wrong place, because and by the way, fighting over it, whether or not it's important, the various nitpicks that we talk about, whether or not said nitpicks are particularly important. But how was the series overall? Was it any good? Because ultimately, that's what matters, right? Was watching the 8 episodes of The Mandalorian or the 10 episodes of Picard entertaining, or do you want your 6 to 10 hours back, right? And at the end of tonight, rather than rate an episode out of 10, I'm going to ask each of us to rate the series out of 10.
Or the season.
The season?
The season. Sorry, I'm thinking of it in UK terms, but yeah, the season out of 10. So let's do the, and I'm holding a annoying Chihuahua. So if you don't mind doing the switcheroos on the pictures, Jason,
Sure.
Let's do the old hot takes for the season. I will say this, since you put me up there first. And I know I don't usually go first, but hey, there's a first time for everything, and so the first. I think that the season was flawed for sure. I think that the biggest problem with Mandalorian season 3 was pacing was inconsistent. Sometimes the pacing felt, like it was just, moving a mile a minute. Sometimes it felt like it was being paced by the hypno turd. And so it was like either really fast or really slow. It didn't feel like it was ever anywhere in between. And I quite frankly, I know some people complained about the pacing of season 1 and season 2 being too slow. I'm not one of those people. I like the basic deliberate pace of the Mandalorian for season 1 and season 2. I think that when this show is at its best is when it's a slow but steady, deliberate pace with bits of action to make it exciting every once in a while. But when they try, the problem is that slow but steady is one thing, but like in what was the episode that focused on Lieutenant Biscuits? I always forget.
Episode 2.
Second episode.
Was that episode 2? I thought it was for some reason.
If it was not episode 2, it was episode 3. But it was.
I thought it was episode 3, but whatever.
It was
the
2.
Biscuits episode. That episode, the pacing was so slow that it was just painful to watch. Right? I mean, I was like the whole episode. I was like, when are we going to get back to the Mandalorians? And then when I realized it had been 40 minutes, I was like, really? It felt like it had been a 2-hour episode. So that was horrible. But then when we get episodes like The Pirate that were very exciting and very fast paced, while that was a great and exciting and fun episode, and I don't really have a lot of complaints about it, it was so fast paced that it made other episodes just feel slower than they were. So I think pacing was a big problem. I don't think story was a problem. I actually really liked the way that the story went. I like the exploration of the Mandalorian lore. I like the direction of the, we'll say, Filoni-verse part of Star Wars. I think that what we're seeing as far as this post-Jedi, pre-Force Awakens section of the Star Wars, because Star Wars seems to be now cordoned off in different time zones. And so this particular time zone that takes place in between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, I really like what they're doing with it. But this particular season just felt like one foot on the gas, one foot on the brake, and both feet were slamming down at the same time, and they couldn't figure out what they were doing. However, when it worked really well. When it didn't work, it felt like the vehicle was tearing itself apart. So that's my take on the season as a whole. And so I will now pass the mic on to whoever wants it next.
We'll go with me. So really, for me, all I can do is add on or ever so slightly modify what you said and kind of drill down a little bit onto a couple of things in that useless storytelling elements that are also frustrating are jarring, and they take you out of what it is that you're supposed to be and it was rough. The pacing really, because I know of all the content from the canonical cartoons, there's a lot of hope that I have in there for something good to come out of all of this on the other side, whether that's in the Ahsoka series or whether that's in, some kind of a reconstructed Mandalorian show. Because my thought is they bookended this season the way they did because I think they're having Pedro Pascal problems, because we know that they already have Pedro Pascal problems in general.
Right.
And I know I was pretty brutal with my feeling on the season finale, and the way they closed that out for me. If the next Star Wars show that we had to watch was season 4 of this, I would not be looking forward to it. Like, honestly, I would watch it with kind of a winced face of what kind of a car crash am I about to watch? And that's kind of sucky.
Mm-hmm.
When you combine it with a lot of the other content that's been coming out, and in particular within the Star Wars universe, that's been wildly wonky with pacing. I don't know. I'm starting to get a little concerned here.
Right.
And this season of this show is definitely left a bit of a sour taste. I won't say necessarily a full-on bad taste, because there's a lot of really cool things that I wanted to see, but again, that doesn't make for an awesome story.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes for a lot of cool things that we saw on the screen, and there's a difference. So for me, I don't know. It's a lot of individual things to like, a lot of things that really made it a hard watch by the end of the season. So kind of middling.
Yeah.
So Danny.
It was hot garbage. I would not have even finished watching the season if Mike hadn't made me. I called him up during that second episode, like 15, 20 minutes into it, to try to get out of doing this. He said no, and it just didn't get any better, and I don't care about the next season. Star Wars is dead to me. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I was going to say the only shining light I think that you ended up having was the second to last episode. Almost, and then they were going to course correct, and this is and
then they dropped the ball in the final episode. So
and that's what kills me with this type of stuff is when they're setting up after such a frustration, and then they just face plant. It's like legging the whole face right into the grass.
Now, I do think that Star Wars, and Stan Lee kind of brings it up in the chat, and I think that this is a real problem, but it's the MCU problem, in that Star Wars has grown to the point where there's so much content now that's alpha canon, meaning on-screen canon. Not just the films, but you have the various TV shows, and not just the live action shows, but the animated shows that are canonical. And so unlike Star Trek, and I will give Star Trek at least some credit for this, is that Star Trek tends to keep the animated stuff in a separate bucket. Like with Prodigy and Lower Decks, while there is going to be a Lower Decks crossover this season with Strange New Worlds, that's like a big deal that they're doing a crossover. They're, for the most part, we don't see anything having to do with Prodigy in alpha canon of Trek, right? We don't see anything from Prodigy show up in Picard.
The closest thing we've got is the magic everybody's connected fleet command thing.
Right. but even that's not directly in. I mean, it's similar in that the distress signal thing, but it's not exactly the same.
No, maybe it's a dumbed down version of it because
Right.
Prodigy is post Picard. So
Right. So there's where Star Wars, especially the Filoni-verse Star Wars, what we're seeing in Mandalorian and what looks like is coming up in Ahsoka, is heavily reliant on the Clone Wars / Rebels mythos.
mm-hmm.
Like from my understanding, and I have not finished watching Rebels yet, but my understanding is that there are scenes in the Ahsoka trailer that are in fact live action versions of scenes from Rebels.
Yes.
And so that there are that it's going to be, and no, Stanley, Moff Gideon is a new character, but of course Grand Admiral Thrawn is a big part of the lore involving with Ahsoka and Rebels and all that. But this whole thing with the Darksaber and Ahsoka and all the stuff that they're building up towards is so heavily reliant on these animated shows that if you haven't watched the animated shows, and I think this is why Danny has such a bad feeling about this, to use the Star Wars terminology, is that he hasn't watched them. And if I hadn't watched any Clone Wars and I hadn't watched any Rebels, I'd be right there with Danny going, what the heck is going on? What's up with the black lightsaber? What's up with the, all this stuff that they're throwing at me? And, I don't get it. I don't understand any of this. Somebody fill me in, because they're just assuming
Yeah, and the funny thing is as much as I'm not going to be nearly as hard on Picard season 3 on my season rating, it's actually because of the fact that at least in Star Trek, you didn't actually really have to know a lot of stuff. Things kind of flowed. As much as the member berries drove you crazy, so many of them were never actually actioned in the show. It didn't really matter a whole lot.
Well, that we'll talk about tomorrow.
Sure. But the reason why I bring it up is because with this, and it's a perfect comment that Danny's made a couple times. It's like, I don't want to do homework.
Right.
I've got a good friend here who has...
However, Danny does have homework because...
Super chat.
Thank you, Danny. So Alexander, my favorite insane, crazy Quebecian with $2.50 Shatners, says Asian Muslim wife born in the USSR is the best choice. Welcome, Alexander. Hope you are doing well, and hope your Asian Muslim wife born in the USSR is equally doing well. And as far as can all lightsabers be crushed, well, I would assume if you have a cybernetically enhanced hand, yes. I mean, a lightsaber is just a metal canister with a kyber crystal in the middle and some electronics. I mean, it's not like the lightsaber is made of Beskar.
Well, it should be.
Yeah. That's something I actually thought about, is like, hey, why isn't Darth Vader's entire suit made out of Beskar? You want to throw some stuff out there. Like I was thinking about that when I was rewatching Obi-Wan the other day. Why didn't Vader just make his helmet out?
Would you do that to yourself? You were rewatching Obi-Wan, the series?
Yes, I rewatched the entire Obi-Wan series in one day.
I didn't dislike it as much as you did, but I can't even bring myself to go back.
It was surprisingly watchable. I do think that, I mean, it's like what, about 5 hours long, I think, maybe 4.
If you strip all the
I'm not talking about credits and stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's like 4 to 5 hours long. I would say that it's probably between 2 and 3 hours of good content. And I'm actually thinking about doing a super cut of it and putting it on up for patrons. of what I think is a good Obi-Wan cut.
Well, do it quick because there is the big giant fan edit coming out, the professional one. So
I am a professional. I don't, and my cut will be better.
Excellent.
So, it'll be the salty cut because I'll put in some intentionally salty edits, like some porn music when unintentionally dirty lines are made. I was thinking about doing the salty cut of Star Wars. Like every time someone says one of those lines that people think are unintentionally dirty, like when Princess Leia points and says, "You came in that thing," and then, and then I don't care what you smell. It's all this really nasty stuff. But anyway,
so to wrap it back, though, the problem in the Star Wars content now,
you're all clear, kid. Now let's blow this thing. Oh, sorry.
Is that so many things are not just there to be, hey, it's the guy that did the thing or the thing that was the thing. Mm-hmm. These are things that they're actually actioning, and if you don't understand why it matters,
then
you've got major problems. And a buddy of mine here, he stopped watching Mando season 3 before the Biscuits episode because he was just
episode 1 or 2.
He's like, I'm out. This is not the Mando that I watched in season 1 or 2. This is just complete child's fare. I'm out. He just and I do
you know what family means by RLM did one for Star Wars? Oh, Red Letter Media, I assume.
Yeah. Okay. And I only just recently got him to start watching the Clone Wars cartoon because when he crossed 50, he turned into a total curmudgeon and he can't stand cartoons anymore.
Right.
So it doesn't matter unless it's like the stuff that was in Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix. He just has no appetite for it at all anymore. But he started, and he's admitted it's not nearly as bad as he thought he was going to be getting himself into. But 7 seasons of that, 4 seasons of Rebels. How are you going to convince people to get back into this show?
Yeah, it's too much. It's too much lore to watch.
It's bloat.
It's too much. That's the problem, is that if it's one thing to have that backstory to refer back to, it's another thing to have to basically, it would be like if the first movie in the MCU was Infinity War and you're just expected to know all the 15 movies that came before it because they were a TV show.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait a minute, what?
It's a perfect analogy, really.
Yeah, it is.
Who are all these guys? I don't get it. Wait, and so I get that. I totally get that, and that's the big problem they're having with the Filoni-verse, is that they didn't stop to take, and I really think this, I'm sure it's a budgetary issue, but what would have been, and I think it would have been awesome, but they couldn't really do it, would be to do a live action version of Rebels to set this up, or something to set this up, to tell the backstory, not to just assume you know it, or to do this, like for example, like if you look at Mando season 1 and 2. In Mando season 1 and 2, like Mando's childhood, while it's not very deep, is told through flashback. All right, you see the purge, the battle droids taking out his family, the Mandalorians coming and rescuing him, and all this stuff, and it's told through a series of flashbacks that take place over the course of the season. So by the end of season 1, you have a very good idea of how Din Djarin was found as a foundling and why he's so dedicated to the Mandalorian way. Right?
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. What they should have done with this season would be to tell Bo-Katan's story in the same way. But they didn't. Instead, they just assume you know it.
Well, and worse than that. And I mean, I know that there's been some people that, including yourself, that didn't have nearly as much of an issue. But the problem is what they gave us instead was not just unsatisfying; it was to a certain extent unacceptable.
Right. Well, Lieutenant Biscuits was just pathetic.
Yeah.
And
well, and what they did with Pershing was ridiculous because there was a chance to actually use him as a way to tell more story of all the cloning stuff. Right. And they threw that away as well. They did nothing with it.
Right. And that could have been through Pershing. That would have been another way to tell a lot of this story.
Yeah.
Like instead of just having Biscuits fry Pershing's brain, how about we have Pershing telling stories and do flashbacks about when he was young and how all this came to be, and then how about we get the story of the Darksaber and how all the Darksaber stuff happened through flashbacks, and they don't have to be. And what does Bondage say? Can you imagine Disney makes successful animation, then years later spends all that money to do the same thing live action instead of all their imaginary news stories waiting in the wings? Well,
it feels like it to a certain extent. It's not as bad as the mainline Disney content, which is exactly what's having the treatment on. But yeah,
but I would say I would say this as far as that's concerned. I don't think that so the Clone Wars was successful, but I don't think it was as successful as Mando. And a flashback of a young salty trained to become exactly. You can see how I got this scar, right? I'll be talking about this one for a while when I was, but the but yeah, if we had some flashbacks, and you don't have to show everything that happened in the Clone Wars cartoon, just little snippets and flashbacks, and then intercut with Bo-Katan and Din Djarin talking about it would be more than enough.
Well, yeah, I mean, can you imagine, considering that almost nobody watched Solo, can you imagine if you did a flashback scene where you saw the fall of the capital city and there's Darth Maul?
Right.
Or you do another flashback where you show that, Bo-Katan's sister, Satine, was murdered. Just little things that, fill in the blanks as to who and what has caused Bo to be the way that she is and caused Mandalore to a lesser extent, perhaps, as to why it's the way that it is. Right. Because the story behind Mandalore is heavily fleshed out in both Clone Wars and Rebels, as far as why does the planet's surface look the way that it is, and why is everybody living in dome cities and so on.
Well, but they don't even touch on it. We know that the planet was glassed by the Empire, but that's not why they were living in dome cities before that.
No, the Mandos pretty much half glassed the place on their own accord anyway.
Right.
So it's just it's kind of rough. Like I mean, I'm having a rough time with the Star Wars content. It's
right,
and
that's where I'm having problems too. And I think that the thing that makes me mad is that with some good writing and some reallocation of some of the budget, you could fix it. Like, as much as I liked the pirate episode, like I did really like the pirate episode. If you scrap that episode and use the money from that episode as nothing but flashbacks, and then you do it, then you can tell Bo-Katan's whole story. You know, that's it right there, budget wise. So and by the way, someone mentioned that the Book of Boba Fett, Cad Bane needed flashbacks. 100% agree.
Oh my goodness, yeah, because
nobody knew who Cad Bane even was.
Well, actually,
I didn't know. By the way, I hadn't seen Clone Wars at that point. I don't know if you remember this part, Danny, but when Cad Bane showed up in Book of Boba Fett, I was like, "Who the bleep is this guy?" And
the blue guy,
yeah. I seriously, I was like, "Who the bleep is this guy? Why is he so angry? And why am I supposed to be so impressed by his presence?" And everybody I knew, like all over the internet, everybody's freaking out. "Oh, it's Cad Bane, Cad Bane." I'm like, "Who the F is Cad Bane?" This is
homework again, right? Back to the homework.
And it's like, give me some flashbacks, because this is an animated character. He's never been in live action before. And, we didn't even, Book of Boba Fett needed so much more than just, okay, he had friends that were freaking Tusken Raiders. That's...
well, and here's
was as all the problems that this show had, Book of Boba Fett had 10 times worse.
Okay, so I got to bring this up because this is a legit thing. So if they had not killed off Cad Bane, and they tried to actually keep season 3 of Mando way more like season 1 and 2. Cad Bane was as much a bounty hunter as he was a scummy dude.
Right. Now that I've seen Clone Wars, I get who Cad Bane is.
Yeah. So he was. Yeah. Like, can you imagine if you built a season of Mando around the two of them, basically being at odds with each other over bounties or something?
Or think about this: what if, let's say, and we could have something like say because the season 4 of Mando is coming, and so let's say, like, if I'm Mr. Writer guy, and they're like, okay, pitch me ideas, right? Okay, Cad Bane is working for Moff Gideon, right? Because Moff Gideon gets the evil bounty hunters, of course. And of course, we know Mando is now working for the Republic. And there's a Force artifact out there, because we know they exist, right? These weird Force sensitive artifacts that, are magic in the Star Wars universe. And so we're going to create a Force MacGuffin that we want Mando to get, but Cad Bane was also hired to get, and the two of them are now competing to get the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And
that becomes the basis of the entire season.
And it would have been so much better than this last season.
Yeah. Without
any doubt whatsoever.
Yeah.
And for that matter, how about this?
Take Cad Bane out like a wuss. And honestly, they introduce him and then they just quickly kill him.
If they had been thinking about all of Mando in general a little better, maybe the thing they had to go hunt down was the Darksaber. So the payoff for the end of season 3 was the lead-in for Ahsoka.
Right.
And then you have the characters that seem to over-dominate in season 3 of Mando show up in Ahsoka, because there's nothing wrong with having Bo-Katan in the Ahsoka show because of the interactions that went on in the past.
How about this? What if you find out, okay, so Cad Bane is hired by Gideon, right? That's all we know. Is that we get word that Cad Bane is hired by Gideon to take down a high-value target. And he keeps coming after Bo-Katan, right? So Mando keeps trying to stop Cad Bane from getting anywhere near Bo-Katan, right? And that becomes like conflict, right? But then here's what we find out at the end of the season. And as Cad Bane is like, in that stupid voice of his,
that kind of roboted voice.
Yeah, he's like, "Yeah, you idiots. You should be on my side with this. And it's like, what are you doing? I'm just trying to use Bo-Katan as bait. My mark ain't her. I'm after Admiral Thrawn. And then and that's the end.
And then that's it. Like, and then you have Ahsoka. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, so now everybody's after Thrawn.
Yeah. Now, the reason why I have Bondage Brittany's comment up here is because, unfortunately, you can't quite go like that, as you know, Mike, from watching all of Clone Wars. Cad Bane was written into the Star Wars lore that he has way more impact on a lot of goings on, and the fact that that guy is basically one of the only bounty hunters that's been able to actually stand up to Jedi.
Yeah, he went toe to toe with Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, he's not just, up to no good. Like, this guy is an absolute force.
And I think he went toe to toe with Anakin as well, didn't he?
To a certain extent, yeah. But to just wave it off as, the one moment in the street with the gunslingering, that didn't explain anything to anyone. Right. And it didn't explain the fact that Boba was growing up from being a clone from all the way back in the prequel movies, and was interacting throughout the Clone Wars cartoon with characters like Cad Bane and whatnot. Right. So like, they'd crossed paths before when he was young. So it's one of those problems of, there's so much content, it's hard to start doing things. And there's so much content, it makes it inexcusable for when they don't know what to do.
Well, I think here's the problem that I think Filoni and company are running into, is that yes, there's a lot of content there, but I think rather than looking at that content and taking simple little ideas like we've been talking about, they want to just go straight to the grandiose, the end game kind of thing, right? They want to go straight to Admiral Thrawn, straight to the biggest thing they can go to, and that is the stupid Hollywood mistake that happens every time. It's like, what the biggest problem the biggest mistake that Marvel Studios made was go for Thanos. Thanos should still be 10 movies away. Because Thanos is like 10 times more deadly than Galactus, and we still haven't seen Galactus.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Thanos makes the Celestials wusses, and we barely seen the Celestials.
Yeah.
But no, instead we go straight for Thanos because everybody in the comic book world nerds out over the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah. And fundamentally the phase 1, 2, and 3 still ended up being excellent, but they blew all their mustard on the hot dog.
And DC, of course, did it even worse, where in the second movie they tried to do the death of Superman and Doomsday in one movie. The death of Superman and the Dark Knight Returns in one movie.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, settle down. It's like, calm down. Yeah. There's time here for this.
Yeah.
The worlds between worlds.
Look at Stan Lee's comics. It's so MCU burned through 40 years of comics and a decade of movies. DC burned through 40 years of comics in 2 movies.
Yeah.
With Man of Steel and Batman v Superman.
Yeah. That world between worlds thing is interesting, but unfortunately, I don't think Disney will ever actually action it.
Oh, as far as
it's I don't know, Danny, if you've ever heard this talked about before, the world between worlds, the veil of the Force. So there's a
This is a client. I'm sorry, I got to take this. I'll be right back. Good.
And he's gone.
So I'll save that for when he comes back because it's interesting. It's going to be one of those. I'll get his hopes up and then I'll crush them.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving away from that.
Thomas thinks we're haters. I am definitely not a hater, because I will say this. I'm still, despite all the negativity we're flying around, unlike Danny for sure, and to a lesser extent, Mr. Canadian Smile Face, I am loving the new Star Wars stuff. I actually, and so I'll talk about it now since I don't want to give Danny a heart attack. I really enjoyed rewatching Kenobi. When I rewatched Kenobi, I was thinking about how everybody was throwing shade at the show and how horrible it was, and how it breaks canon. And no, it doesn't. Rewatch that show. It does not. In fact, it makes perfect sense. And Kenobi's character arc is really solid. I think that Vader's arc is really solid. I think Reva could, with a little bit of tweaking, was pretty good. I think that the only problem with Reva was that she should not have been going after Luke in the last episode. That part was dumb. After Vader skewers her, then I would say she should be out of the picture. If you want to have her survive so that she can come back for season 2 and team up with Kenobi to go after Vader, fine. But going after Luke after that was dumb, because she had no motivation for that.
My problem with Reva is actually there's no way the Inquisitorius nor Vader would have ever let her do what she did, which was to pretend to be one of them and go on 10 years of killing spree in a quote unquote attempt to try to kill Vader. Like her entire backstory on that is just, first off, difficult to believe, and second of all, ridiculous from a perspective of why would she deliberately go around hunting and killing Jedi and Padawan only because she wants to kill Vader, because she's mad at Vader for killing all the Jedi and the Padawan.
So let me as far as her doing, I think that she's first of all, I think crazy will do a lot of stupid things. And so we didn't see her. I mean, as far as
let me throw one little tiny super short nugget.
Yeah.
I don't mind her being made crazy by what she got involved with, as long as they actually spend the time to explain.
They needed to spend a little bit more time with her indoctrination.
Yes.
That's what I would have liked to have seen.
Yes.
And so that we could have seen her get indoctrinated, and then she slowly realizes what's going on. And so at that point, she kind of, she is a dark side wielder. And one thing that the dark side does, and this is canonical all the way back to the prequels, is dark siders can hide their true intentions. Right. So that's something the Emperor managed to do from all the masters of the Jedi Council.
Yeah.
Right. So her being able to hide herself from Vader and and stuff didn't bother me. But but I would agree with you that we should have seen the process by which she was first indoctrinated into the Inquisitorius, and then her deciding to betray them.
And that would have been extra good for the overall storytelling, because the Grand Inquisitor himself, and I don't know if you've gotten to this point in Rebels, he used to be a temple guard.
Well, one of the red guards?
No, a Jedi temple guard.
Oh, okay.
Like he was a full-on Jedi.
I don't know which Grand Inquisitor, because like I know there's
the only Grand Inquisitor who never did die until they killed him in pretended to kill him in this. Oh no, sorry, actually no, he did die finally in Rebels at the very, very end.
Okay. In Rebels,
he finally, I'm trying to remember I'm keeping the timeline straight, because Kenobi happens before Rebels.
Right. But yeah, in Rebels, we're currently, let's see, what's his name is blind, and he just met what are those guys called that are like neutral in the Force? The giant.
Oh, the Bendu.
Yeah, the wildebeest
I
guy.
love the Bindu. He's
Yeah,
so
he
awesome.
just met them. Like
Oh.
I'm in the episode where he meets them.
So when Kanan learns the backstory fate of the Grand Inquisitor during the period of time when he's blind, like when he went through his trials when he first had the mask on, that's when he found out that he used to be, like, at that point the Grand Inquisitor's dead, but through the power of the Force and through that huge hidden Jedi temple that they go to at one point, if you haven't seen that, minor spoiler because I don't remember the timelining on it, but that's where he ends up learning that the Grand Inquisitor, the guy that has the lines on his head, he used to be a Jedi temple guard, and he was turned. So the whole process of explaining the Inquisitors would have been well served by. Oh, and Thomas, this show is always a spoiler warning every time.
And I would say this. So as far as and this is one of the reasons I'm beginning to dig Star Wars more than Star Trek in the modern sense, is that, like, Star Wars is getting me to think more about the possibilities of the future as far as storytelling is concerned. Star Trek, as far as I'm concerned, outside of Strange New Worlds, and there's not much storytelling potential right now in Trek. But in even in Strange New Worlds, it's limited. But in Star Wars, I think about, like, and stuff we've even talked about, is the Force good and evil? No, I don't think it is. I think the Force is, emotionalism versus stoicism, right? And that they both have a different channeling of the same energy, but that's what, but because one goes through, the emotions and intellect go through different parts of the brain, so to speak, that's why they have different force power sets, and I think but they also cross over a little bit, and that's why they have things in common.
Well, yeah, because there's a huge, I don't know how far Lucas really wanted everything taken, but a lot of the Clone Wars was done while Lucas still owned Lucasfilm and LucasArts. But there's been a huge amount of expansion on how the Force works throughout Filoni's work in the Clone Wars, and then that was continued on, of course, in Rebels. Just as a side note, if you didn't notice, and yes, Kanan Jarrus is voiced by Freddie Prinze Jr.
Is he really? I did not know.
He is. And the first time I found that out, that blew my socks off, because
I'm surprised.
Because between I Know What You Did Last Summer and him playing in the Scooby-Doo movies, you don't hear it until you know it's him, and then you can tell, oh yeah, that's Freddie Prinze. It's just funny.
But and then so it's not a matter of good and evil, and Sith and Jedi are not good versus evil either. They're just different political ideologies, more or less.
Well, that's kind of the way it's
they're portrayed as good and evil, especially in the earlier movies. But the more you look at them, and especially listen to Palpatine, and this is where Thomas gets a lot of credit for convincing me over the last couple years, because you never really hear the Sith say things like, "Now we're going to conquer them," except for, like, in the cartoons, they kind of make things a little more silly and black and white, good and evil stuff. But in the movies and the live action stuff, you really hear from the Sith more along the lines of peace and order, and they really at not that they want to conquer as much as Thomas, as much as they want everyone to be happy under the rule of the Sith.
Yes, but there is one element, and I don't know why it's taken till now to finally hit me, but the Sith are utterly untrustworthy because they will betray anyone that they need to achieve what they think is their greater good.
But you see, that's
Ah,
but here's where I will disagree with you and agree with you. We've seen them stab people in the back for sure, but is that a Sith trait, or is that individuals that have done bad things?
I so far the
Have
record
we ever
points,
seen Darth Vader go back on his word?
but Darth Vader was turned to the dark side.
I'm just saying, have we ever seen Darth Vader go back on his word?
See,
And I'd go
Thomas,
with Thomas.
ban me for hate speech.
Anti-Sith hate speech.
I stand
Have we
banned.
ever seen Palpatine go back on his word?
Oh no, it's not about going back on his word, because his word is his plan. He's absolutely gone and completely betrayed multiple people. He betrayed Darth Maul.
Because Darth Maul was out of control. He was an out of control.
He also betrayed Count Dooku.
Yeah. Who also had plans of his own to take over and do horrible things that, you know.
He also betrayed, as we saw in a very recent episode of the Bad Batch, so giant spoiler warning, one of his senior commanders of the Imperial Navy.
That's propaganda. I
haven't seen it, so it's not real yet.
yeah, I haven't seen it, so it doesn't count.
So yeah, I mean, it's, again, we talked about this offline one day. We were just hanging out, but it's that classic and interesting concept. And yes, very, much to Thomas's credit, pushing the envelope, whether he's having fun with doing it or not. It's made me think how much got done that was actually really wrong. And boy, oh boy, like the way that things get set up, it really makes you have to think very carefully about a lot of things. And in a way, actually, to tie this right back into the Mandalorian season.
Well, the client in season 1, in every measurable sense, things were better under the Empire.
Yeah. And also, when you look at so you have the whole mythos of the proud and strong people, the Mandalorians. Mm-hmm. But the Mandalorians are absolutely the first people to have to blame for the state of their planet.
Right.
Like their planet didn't get that way because they fought somebody else. They got that way because they fought themselves.
Yeah.
And for centuries would fight. So it's interesting how within the story overall in the galaxy far, far away, they have managed to actually weave this more complex existence, and that it's not super duper simple. Like, say, TOS Star Trek is like Federation good, Romulans and Klingons not good.
Well, Klingons not good. Romulans and TOS
didn't really know one way or the other for sure, but Klingons definitely not good.
As far as the Romulan military, we never got the feeling they were bad as much as just on the other side of a political line.
Yeah, but Klingon definitely bad.
Yeah, Klingons were definitely some ne'er-do-wells there.
Yeah, so it was a very clear line that was being drawn there, and and I mean, you could see a lot of the work being done to try to change the galactic history in such a way that it doesn't break too much or anything, so that they can have more complex stories. In that, when you go back and look at a lot of the video games that are counted as canon, you go way back to Old Republic. There's the everybody hates the whole gray Jedi thing, but there's a video game that actually shows that there were Force wielders that considered themselves neither Jedi nor Sith.
Right.
So, what do you call them? I mean, fine, don't call them gray Jedi if you don't want to get into that crazy.
Well, because they're neither Jedi nor
but,
Sith.
But
they can call themselves whatever they want. But
yeah, just don't use the term Jedi in the name. Yeah.
Right. And 'cause this is something I was actually thinking about the other day, is that, like, okay, definitively part of being a Jedi is to be stoic, to use your intellect to control the Force, to not give into emotional outbursts, and that kind of thing, because that's just how you it's an ideological and religious belief system. To be a Sith is quite the opposite. To be a Sith is to engage and purposely use your passions and your emotions, and to control and manipulate the Force. And so if you are not using your emotions, you're not a Sith. If you're not being stoic, you're not a Jedi. It's just a matter of fact. It's not a matter of, oh, I'm a Jedi, but I don't use the. No, you're not a Jedi if you don't follow the Jedi way. It's like calling you a Christian, but I don't believe in Jesus.
Yeah.
No,
that's fair.
And so I think that that's why I don't like the gray Jedi term, because being a gray Jedi means I'm a Jedi, but I'm not really a Jedi.
So if I didn't know better, with this one comment alone, I would accuse Bondage Brittany as being a sock puppet account for LDG.
You are Lucifer, you are God, navigating black and white checkers, knowledge of both good and evil, mercy and justice, and balance based on. Yeah, that does sound very much like LDG. Bondage.
No, but it's when you get to the Promethean. As soon as I saw Promethean,
I think Bondage Brittany confirmed to be an LDG sock account. You just gave it away.
Oh dear.
Hey, sorry about that.
Hey, no problem.
And Alexander, the reason Ahsoka said I'm no Jedi is because she still follows the Jedi way, but she resigned herself from the Jedi Order because she was accused of, I can't remember the crime now, but she was accused of a crime within the Jedi Order. And
she was actually set up and betrayed by who she thought was a
friend, and she was expelled. But then it was found out that she was not guilty, so they said, "Okay, we're not gonna expel you." And she's basically like, "F you guys, I'm out." And so she quit. So she still has all the skills of a Jedi, but she no longer is a practicing member of the Jedi religion.
Yeah. She's pro good team, so to speak, but she's walking her own
She's a
path.
Jedi ally, if you will. She's obviously friends with Luke Skywalker, and she still knows, she practices the Jedi methodology as far as her Force wielding, but she's not, but she wouldn't attend a Jedi temple. She wouldn't, she refused to teach Grogu because, she felt that it would be inappropriate. Although I think that her whole thing, that her making the deal with Din Djarin was really underhanded, because she was just trying to get help, and then she had never had any intention on training Grogu, which I thought was jacked up.
Yeah. So that thing that I was going to bring up just before your client called it, the World Between Worlds is possibly one of the worst hopium copium things in the Star Wars world. For those that have watched all of Rebels, there's a canonical ethereal place that you can go and fundamentally change time. And when everyone, this is from Star Wars Rebels. Yeah. And when everybody was losing their mind about how catastrophically bad the sequel 3 movies were, everyone started developing all these crazy theories that, oh, the reins will be handed over, Filoni will step in, and then they'll just hand wave the world between worlds, and then immediately fix the timeline and give us something better than what we
basically do a
got.
Star Trek, make it so it's an alternate reality kind of thing.
But unfortunately, as all the live action content has continued, we've had too many references to things like Canto Bite and this and that, and it's like, oh.
Well, even if we hadn't, I mean, come on, they're never going to. It's just like when I know that fans that don't like a particular movie or I mean, how many of us hated Star Trek 5? But they're never going to say, "Oh, well, Star Trek 5 didn't happen." They just don't.
Well, I mean,
talk about it.
Hate's a strong word. I actually didn't hate Star Trek 5. The Final Frontier? Like, what does God need with a starship?
Yeah, I don't hate it. I absolutely
how many people
acknowledge
thought Star Trek 5 was stupid?
I thought Star Trek 5 in the body of all of the movies, including the JJ movies, including riding a wave, playing the Beastie Boys in Star Trek Beyond, aka
Star Trek Beyond is the worst Star Trek film. But
did you? Actually, that reminded me of something. I don't know if you guys saw. I retweeted. Somebody cut up the scene from Picard that you hated that I loved, where the Enterprise D is flying.
Oh, the Millennium Falconing.
They cut that to sabotage, and it was actually kind of
no.
Yeah, it's on my Twitter. You should. It was
honestly. I'm gonna have to go look that up. That actually makes it better, just because, just for all kinds of reasons. But I'll absolutely.
I was really impressed with the chick that made it.
Oh, nice. I'll absolutely acknowledge that it's arguably the worst of all the Star Trek.
Yeah,
I would say that I would agree with that, but I mean that doesn't. Yeah, I would agree.
It's the second to worst, but I'll
Well, what do you think's the worst?
Star Trek Beyond.
No, we're talking about the original cast movies.
Well, I actually reached all the way out and included all.
He included all the movies.
Yeah, that's why I said arguably it's the worst. If you really want to get picky because of the whole, which is why I also brought up the Beastie Boys comment about riding the wave in.
So I think Star Trek Beyond is the worst. I think Star Trek 5 is the second worst.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, my point is that even like, okay, I'll even go this far. You know how much I hated the Enterprise D being an X-wing fighter. I mean, I detest that with every fiber of my being. I absolutely despise that sequence. But I'm not going to say it didn't happen.
Right.
All right. It's canon. Apparently, Galaxy class ships are now that freaking maneuverable. I don't like it. I think it's stupid. And because of that, I never want to see another Star Trek thing set in the 25th century, because that is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. That being said, I'm not going to sit there and pretend it didn't happen. I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, you need to do something with time travel to make it so it didn't happen. No, it happened. It was just really stupid.
Oh man, I'm Danny.
And sadly, there is no way there was lots of room to maneuver. Watch the freaking scene.
I'm cheating. I got it playing with the volume turned down a little bit. Oh, this is awesome. It's so not Star Trek, but it's so awesome.
Yeah.
It would just make you more crusty. Like, oh my
God.
When I was rewatching some of those scenes, partially because of the absolute tidal wave of content that Major Grin has been putting out on his channel, courtesy of all of the funny stuff that he's pulling apart from Picard. The only thing I didn't actually like about the flying through the Borg cube, really, was the fact that there were weapon systems on the inside of the Borg cube, and I hadn't noticed.
Well, it's like, they knew people were going to fly into the ship.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, well, if you knew someone was going to come in, don't have a door.
Well, I guess it kind of makes sense now why there's a garage door in the Borg cube from season 1.
Yeah.
it's to let the starships fly in.
Yeah.
So I guess we're are we talking about Picard now? I thought we were doing that tomorrow.
No,
We were
we
waiting
were
for you, but
Sorry.
We only took this brief detour here because we've been kind of having to poke at Star Trek a little bit, because the reality is both of these franchises are incredibly old. One only outdating the other by about a decade. And
which at this point is not that much difference in time.
No, it matters for almost nothing.
Right.
And
because you're talking 60s and 70s. We're not talking about 10 years ago and 20 years ago.
No, exactly. And we are talking about the two heavyweights in all of television franchises, regardless of science fiction or not. And also in movie franchises. These are, whoever controls these two franchises controls the world.
Controls the world of sci-fi anyway.
Yeah.
You know what's weird is Elnor is trending right now on Twitter.
What?
I have no idea why. Yeah, isn't that weird?
Is it because everybody all of a sudden is getting into a
Excelsior?
hot debate over whether or not he died on the Excelsior?
So apparently Terry Matalas weighed
There's
in
nothing to debate.
and said,
he did that same episode, like the day the episode dropped. He said he's not dead.
Yeah. He
He's floating in space with his
I don't know, but
I don't know. Yeah.
Later that morning, after I'd finished watching the episode before work, and Terry's like, Elnor's not dead, or something to that effect, and I was like,
yeah, because
I've got a great idea
Salty
for a
Nerds.
short video, and if Major Grin steals this one from me like he did the last one, I will punch him in the face.
well, don't say it out loud.
I'm not
going to
say it out loud,
watching the stream, because
but
I know
am
he
going
hangs
to
around
really-
here.
I'll tell you about it afterwards, so that if he does do it, you'll know I'm telling him the truth.
Okay.
But
Yeah, it's hard to not cross compare the two, and it's hard to, especially when you're talking like a season comparison, because there's so many issues. There's so many issues that the two franchises share right now, and what's funny is I'm actually a little more forgiving on the Star Trek side right now than I am on the Star Wars side.
because you're a jerk.
Yeah. And that's, for me, it's because there's so much more content in Star Wars that's more recent that I really, really like. And for me, I'm feeling the same kind of frustration. I won't go to the degree of saying betrayal, except for the whole crushing of the Darksaber is really still got me set right off. But yeah, I just, if all of the TNG stuff was way closer to Picard coming out, I think I'd be a lot more picky. But I was giving Star Trek all the grace in the world under Terry with this season, because I could tell right at the start, like, it was like, this is we don't know if we're ever going to get to do any of this ever again. I'm going to write a love letter. I don't really care as much. Like, I've watched some of the interview that the Popcast guys did. I haven't gotten all the way through it yet, the one that they did with Terry. Some of the things he said in the interview, I'm like, I don't know that you actually went back and watched the finished product that you put out. But I do believe that he was earnest in his general efforts to create a love letter. I just don't think he quite realized entirely what the finished product was. And that's hard to do, because if you're the executive producer or showrunner, you've got a lot of other people doing directorial work, editors doing stuff. You can't be there for every. You don't want to be James Cameron about it, because then everyone's going to hate your guts.
Right.
Yeah. Well, let's we'll talk about this tomorrow. Let's pull it back. Bondage Brittany in the chat says the saber doesn't matter. It's not complicated. The kyber crystal is what matters. They didn't show it crushed. It's 99% going to be new thing Grogu eventually gets, and or Snoke's black mystery box ring. What do you guys think of that? I don't know. I don't think we're going to see.
The classic rule is we only saw it sitting on the floor. There was no frame that showed the fire from the Architans actually burning it up or blowing it completely to smithereens. So yes, there's a very strong chance that we will see either it or something of it in the future. But the frustration for me is that with everything being so up in the air in the LucasArts world,
Right.
as far as every other day you turn on the turn on the news, there's a term that lets you know how old the person speaking is. It's like turn on the TV was actually what I was going to say, but
I know you want to say it will warm up the TV.
yeah, that too. Yeah, I definitely experienced some of that. The reality is that there are stories, movies that are being told to everybody that are going to come, and then they're getting canceled.
Right.
There's whole shows that have already been nuked from orbit for various reasons in the last few years. And
even like take a look at Solo. Like they started something there, and then they finally make it live action canon that Maul didn't die in Phantom Menace, and then they just dropped it. Now it's gone. Like that kind of shit's frustrating.
Well, and the worst part there was they totally misread the tea leaves on that, because Solo as a movie wasn't that bad, and it wasn't fatigue. People
people were so angry about the Last Jedi.
They actively backed that. Yeah, they
which wasn't fair. I actually liked Solo. Yeah,
I did
actually,
too. I forget how.
I thought Solo was okay. I didn't. I didn't.
Well, yeah, it wasn't great or anything, but it didn't.
Yeah, but
suck.
like
is
like a 3 out of 5. Love is a 5 out of 5, and so liking it is fine. Like it's a likable movie. Like I've watched it a couple times, and it's fine. I don't have any issue with it.
I thought. Well, I had issues with it mainly because I didn't think that he didn't feel like Han Solo to me, the character. He just felt like space character, but he didn't feel like Han Solo. That's just my opinion. I didn't particularly care for that.
There were little things that bothered me, like how he got his name. How
he got his name was stupid. How he decided to call Chewbacca Chewie, I thought was stupid. Him and Chewbacca's shower scene, stupid. I'm sorry, that was just dumb.
Yeah,
him speaking Wookiee, stupid. There was a lot of things in there that I just thought were stupid. But I didn't hate the movie. I thought the overall story was okay. I think it could have used a little bit of a rewrite, but overall, I didn't hate the movie.
Like Stan Lee points out, I really would have loved to see the original version.
As far as
Lego guys,
as far as the Darth Maul appearance, well, now I want to see Darth Maul in Obi-Wan season 2. I want to see Darth Maul take on Ahsoka. I watched
that's in the cartoon, right? Like because
Obi-Wan
somebody sent me a clip.
Kills Darth Maul in the cartoons.
Around a fireplace, right?
Out in the desert on Tatooine, and it happened.
And it's like just before.
It's like a year and a half before New Hope. Yeah, it's like super tight, close. Yeah,
because he looks like Obi-Wan from A New Hope.
Yeah, so he's full old. So like they'd have to put the old man suit on Ewan McGregor to do it.
But you know what? That's why I think that, and I'm sorry, I know everybody is so attached to the canon of the cartoons, but in this case, hey, use the timey-wimey disc of doom and just change
the dial of destiny.
That's what that thing is. It is the dial of destiny. And if
the world between worlds is absolutely the dial of destiny. But
it really
Star
is.
Wars,
I haven't got because when he uses it, it looks like a big dial, and so it's the dial of destiny.
Yeah,
And so I wouldn't be surprised if in Indiana Jones, that's what the dial of destiny is. In fact, that I would not be surprised at all if it was a Star Wars crossover. And keep in mind, Indiana Jones is a Lucasfilm product.
Yeah. So there's going to be bleed over everywhere.
So they absolutely could make it the dial of destiny, and you could have Indiana Jones meet a Star Wars character in the dial of destiny.
Yeah.
And
So-
notice that in Indiana Jones in the trailer, you see the hyperspace effect. So
Yeah, that's
so there might be some shenanigans going on.
that would be
I don't know.
that would be kind of comical. If
So
Could
it
you
here-
see him
was,
meeting
but-
Han Solo? That would be such a trip. Like if he met the Han Solo from Solo, a Star Wars story, and like they looked at each other, it's like, you look familiar. But
I saw on YouTube not too long ago, somebody took a few scenes and deep faked Harrison Ford's face on that on the kid that played Han Solo in the movie. Just a few of the scenes, and like it looked good. I'm like, damn, like they should have just.
you would be great because now I'm sure you've seen the de-aged Harrison Ford for Indy 5, which looks incredible.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
as
does.
much
Really
as I
blown
don't
away.
care about Indy 5, that looks incredible, and I will watch Indy 5 when it comes out on Disney Plus just for the de-aged effect. But now what would be really cool was he goes into the Dial of Destiny and he meets Han Solo as de-aged Harrison Ford when he's de-aged Harrison Ford Indiana Jones.
Oh, goodness.
and so you have the two of them looking at each other going, whoa. And then they just and then they go back to their respective universes.
I like Stan Lee's comment here. He's like, nice whip, nice blaster.
Yeah. Exactly. They would say something like that. It's like,
Yeah.
and that would be it.
Yeah, and then both of them run off to the rest of their mission that they're working on. Or whatever. Yeah.
But yeah.
So I did want to mention something kind of unrelated. CinemaCon is here in Vegas, and yesterday,
you're going to be hanging out with Nerdrotic, right?
Well, that's later today. But yesterday at the CinemaCon, they showed the Flash movie, and
did you watch it?
I didn't get to, but Robert Meyer Burnett did. And when I met him last night at the Salty Nerd thing, which I'll get into that in a second, and he said it was really, really, really good. And
it looks like it's going to be good.
Wow, and that's all he would say. Like I was trying to pick his brain, but that is.
Although,
all
in
he would
fairness,
say.
he was also gushing over Picard. So,
Oh God, yeah. Well, that's because Picard season 3 is good. So anyway, the Salty Nerd event last night. Okay, yes, Stanley, Millennium Fandom Bar tonight, and I'll be taking photos for the Popcast guys, assuming they let me in. I haven't been to the Millennium Phantom Bar in quite some time, and
just do not do anything that gets you into trouble. Please.
Oh well, I mean that's what, like if they let me in, they definitely will not serve me. So
Is that what we were talking about earlier today?
Yeah. So, but remember, I was super excited because I thought I was going to get to see Picard on the big screen, episode 9. CBS put the freaking kibosh on it, and they ended up showing Robert Meyer Burnett's movie called Free Enterprise, like from the 90s. It was, we ended up watching that instead. I was a little bummed about that, and because of that, Cece still hasn't even finished watching. But she's not really a Star Trek fan anyway. So anyway, yeah, I just wanted to mention that. And the cool thing,
better for
back
Cece,
into Star Wars. Yeah, I guess you would say that. Millennium Phantom Bar is pretty cool. I mean, it's a Star Wars themed, nerd bar, and it's a lot of people kind of bet against it because it's really hard to have a bar in Vegas without gaming.
Where is it?
It's downtown Las Vegas. It's on 4th by 4th and Las Vegas Boulevard. But
Okay,
downtown,
so it's actually really, really downtown, not towards the airport.
Correct. Yeah. It's like it's Charleston and over there, and but it is it's been around for years with no gaming, and it's because the nerd scene out here is really kept it afloat. My only issue with it back in the day was it's pretty pricey. They don't have food, and the drinks are really expensive. But that's Vegas for you.
So Millennium Fandom Bar, go there, but don't
Get your nerd on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they could do some timey-wimey stuff, have Indiana Jones come in and reset the timeline, and just start wreaking all sorts of havoc with his bullwhip. You see the Mandalorian season 4, Mando and Indiana Jones just tearing apart everybody. That's my prediction for season 4. Mando and Indy on a path of destruction across the Wild West that is the Star Wars universe. Which I think I do like the Mandalorian Wild West format. I hope they stick to that. I don't.
So do you
Well,
really
I would say
Mando's
try
coming?
to get back to it.
Yeah, because I think they strayed away from it a little too much this season.
Yeah, I don't know, Danny. I honestly don't think it's coming back.
What's that?
Yeah, I don't either, man. The Mandalorian. I think they're done.
I think that the edit that they did,
The what?
the edit that they put out that is this finale is set up. That's it. He unlocked retirement mode.
Yeah,
Who?
yeah.
Wait, that's a Mandalorian's not coming back?
Yeah.
I
think he's coming back.
If the show comes back, he's not going to be in it, because the thumbnail you didn't use, one of the show's producers flat out said in an interview that the Mandalorian. It's called The Mandalorian, not The Din Djarin Show. The Mandalorian can be in.
You know why they're saying that is to make sure that Din Djarin doesn't try to think that he can tell them what to do.
The problem is Pedro Pascal doesn't care.
But you know what? If Pedro Pascal left the show, they can recast. Fine, I don't care.
Oh yeah,
I mean the dude never takes his helmet off anyway. But
yeah, I know. At this point,
yeah.
what's really funny is Buddy from the TV show. Castle,
they can have his stuntman do it because he does it half the time anyway.
Yeah. What were you saying, Jason?
Nathan Fillion from Castle and Firefly.
Yeah.
If you listen to the timbre of his voice, it's extremely similar.
Yeah.
They could actually get Nathan Fillion to either take over the role or do the voiceover for no helmet.
Yeah. All you got to do is get him to say "This is the way" a few dozen times, and then and then have Grogu squeak, and everybody will be happy.
Yeah.
I have spoken.
But
yeah, I have spoken.
But yeah, I honestly, with all of the nonsense going on, that has made it out as fact out of Disney. And we know that Pedro is finding all kinds of success in all kinds of other franchises and movies. And I also understand the whole bit about if you're under a mask the entire season, that it affects the way that you get paid. But like, come on. Emily Swallow, who plays the armor, is way easier on the eyes for everybody than Pedro Pascal. And she kept that helmet on.
She has never taken it off.
Seasons.
Yeah.
In fact, Din Djarin is the only Mandalorian to take off his helmet of his sect.
The
covert. Not talking about the Night Owls. I'm tired.
Just the covert. Yeah. The children of the Watch. Yeah.
See, I don't know. I don't know if this site is reputable or not. I'm inside the magic.
I wouldn't trust them. I mean, look, I know there's a lot of rumors out there.
Yeah, they're saying that Pedro Pascal is done with the Mandalorian.
I don't care. You know what? But here's the problem with that. You're going to have people throwing out rumor mills that he's done. You're going to have other people saying he's not. I'm not going to say either one because we don't.
I haven't seen anybody saying he's not done.
Unless the source is Disney. Don't no. It's not worth it's because if you're sitting there going, well, I got this, even if it's a reliable source, right? If it's not Disney, we don't know. All right. So think about this. If you had a bunch of independent sources saying Tucker Carlson was done, but there was no announcement from Fox, would you really believe Tucker Carlson was gone? But Fox made the announcement. Okay, Tucker Carlson's gone. So when Disney says, okay, Pedro Pascal, we had creative differences. He's no longer going to be on The Mandalorian. But don't worry, season 4 is still in production. And we have lots of great surprises in store for you. And that's what they'll do. That is exactly what they would do. And whether or not they're going to recast him or they would just say that his character is now in retirementville and they're going to do a new Mandalorian arc. Whatever. We'll find out. I think they would recast him because, and you know what? Look, bondage. Doomcock and I were good friends for a little while, but let me say this with all the tact that I possibly can. I really, really want to cuss right now. I really, really do, because Doomcock is the biggest
Dumbcock. You got
bull
it wrong.
crapper
Dumbcock.
on the face of this planet when it comes to stuff. All right, he just makes stuff up and acts like it's fact, but they but it's rumor, so you can't blame me if it's wrong. Yes, I can, because you're constantly saying it's true. Doomcock is constantly spreading rumor as being true, and that kind of crap. I have no patience for.
Yeah, I am not at all suggesting the classic camp of every week Kathleen Kennedy's being fired.
Right,
but
and so
but there are
there's
things,
drama, but we don't know
we
what's bottom line. We don't know.
There is sufficient. Well, okay, I'll word it to this degree of caution. There is more than sufficient evidence and other roles that the man has taken on that he is never coming back to this show. What that means for what a season 4 is, I have no idea. I'm just saying right now, there's way more evidence for him not coming back than there is about any senior executive at Disney getting fired.
I would just say this.
So
barring a contract, he doesn't have to, right? Because he obviously has other work. He's in demand, all that. So which is good for him. If he's doing well as an actor, I'm good for him. He's a good actor, blah, blah, blah. But so he wouldn't have to come back, assuming he's not under contract. However, I will say this: if he is under contract and he still doesn't come back, then I have no respect for him whatsoever, and I hope Disney sues the crap out of him. Because I have no respect for actors that do not fulfill their contracts.
That's kind of throwing your toys out of the playpen,
right?
When you start acting like that,
right? So, but I think that if he's not under contract and he just says, you know what, I'm out, I'm done, and then Disney can either recast or come up with a new character. I think they would recast because they would want to keep Grogu in the picture, because Grogu is a freaking money machine.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I expect we're not planning on spending a lot of time at the parks when we're down visiting family in May, but I expect when we go to the Disney store, it'll be like having like a crack cocaine overdose. There's going to be so much Grogu everywhere. It's not going to be funny.
I'm telling you, in all seriousness, I am very much considering trying to design and begin to 3D print a life-size IG-12 with Grogu.
Dude, the pilots. I'm telling you, I'm going to get there and they're going to have it.
Because I think that would be so cool. Just stick in a corner of the room somewhere. I think that would be so cool.
I don't even want to know how much they're going to charge for one, because it'd be just ridiculous. But that the marketing guys are just sitting there, just like count my monies, because they'll sell those things. Like I don't know, Danny, if you heard me talking about this when we were down there on like intended to actually go to the parks and stuff, just Charity and I. They actually had little gummy versions of one of the things that Grogu was eating sold in a bag.
The eggs?
I think it was. But it was all themed around things that Grogu has eaten. I think it was like either little eggs or little frogs or something.
Oh, yeah,
and
I remember the frog babies.
And of course, just,
the frog babies,
marked up, of course.
Yeah.
And, they're just jujubes or gummy bears in another shape.
Right.
Except it's like throw some Grogu on it, make them green, roll that sucker out the door, print the money.
That's the thing. Grogu is definitely printable.
Yeah, look, it was pretty wild.
Reach forward right here. Here we go. I am my Grogu right here.
I refuse to own a Grogu. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I just refuse.
I don't know how to turn this thing on though. This is.
Have you guys seen the Flash trailer that dropped yesterday?
No, but it's slathered all over the front of the IMDb page that I always have up when we're doing these shows. Worlds
Yeah,
collide in the Flash. Watch the trailer. Yeah. I
Yeah.
haven't watched it yet.
Oh my God, what was that? Did he
Oh
just
my
blink?
jeez.
Did I just see
He
that thing
did.
blink?
He did.
Yes, he did.
Good God. The hell was that?
I don't know
Weird
what the
noise.
noise was supposed to be. It probably works better in person.
Yeah. Oh God.
I hope they're sold out of those because I will be made to buy one if we see one. Oh man. See, it's like it's a vehicle.
Right there,
This is like the worst form of Hasbro toys. Making toys and then making
Oh
a
God,
show.
that hurts my ears, man. You gotta stop.
Yeah, it's getting shrill. Yeah, it's yeah.
That's why I don't have it on very often.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'd snip the speaker and let the actions go because those are kind of cool. But
but what I'd like to do, honestly, is 3D print an IG-12 that this would fit in.
Oh goodness, that would be fairly sizable.
Right.
Yeah.
But would not be like, and see, put it in that corner right there, right behind me.
Yeah.
And so that corner would just have an IG-12 standing in it, and with this guy in it, and I think that would be like freaking awesome.
Oh man.
Now, granted, it would take months to print an IG-12. But boy, that would.
There we go.
So that's who's buying these things. Yeah, exactly.
I've had that Grogu for over a year, actually.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the show's been on for 4 years. Actually,
yeah, I got that Grogu when season 2 came out.
Yeah. So
anyway, so I don't think they're going to want to get rid of Grogu, obviously, because he is the money machine of the show.
Right.
So they'll just recast Din Djarin. He's an easy character to recast since anybody looks exactly like him. It's just a matter of getting someone who can do the voice. And the funny thing is, with voice AIs these days, even that's not very difficult.
Well, you got to be careful there. The old copyright.
Well, the thing is, it doesn't even sound
not anymore, because Disney, and I'll tell you, this is something Disney is very shrewd about nowadays. All of Disney's new products, as far as and all of their brands do this, like Marvel and Lucasfilm and everybody, they make sure that in the contract they have the right to use your voice and image.
And I know why. As soon as you started to say it, I know exactly why.
Yep. In case something like this happens.
No. In case Robin Williams sues your butt into oblivion for using your voice of the genie without your permission, as was in the contract. Now. So they've changed all the contracts. Yeah.
They scan your entire body, and they scan you with one of those skin tight things on, so they know, but they scan your whole body. They take a complete thing of your voice so they can replicate your voice. That's how they did Darth Vader so well without James Earl Jones. And guess what? James Earl Jones and Mark Hamill have no say in whether James Earl Jones and Mark Hamill do voice acting anymore. So if Pedro Pascal doesn't want to do Din Djarin's voice, but they want to hire me to do it, hey, I'll do it. I'll sit there and sit at the microphone and say, this is the way. And then you can have the stuntman do all the physical work. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
And I'll just take the voice actor pay for it. They'll save you a bunch of money.
It doesn't even sound like Pedro Pascal. Like, I mean, so I don't.
No, but that's because you're running it. You're already running his voice through filters to, as far as that's concerned. And all you have to do is write the script so he never takes his helmet off again.
Yeah.
So,
because I tell you what, I didn't know Emily. How do you? What is it? Swallow. The armor.
Yeah.
Whew, she's hot, man. I did not know that. I just
Which is
looked it up
why
because you
it's
were
like
mentioning it.
Pedro Pascal can complain all he wants about having to wear the helmet all the time. But I'm telling you, if I looked like that and I had the kahunas to just sit there and wear that all day long for 3 seasons of a show, come on, Pedro.
Yeah.
Get your man pants on. Get your Mando pants on.
Your Mando pants on. Yeah.
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 Well,
but yeah, so honestly,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, that drama aside, I still have a feeling, considering how underwhelming the general performance seems to have been from people watching the show for season 3. Even if they don't get rid of it, this thing could be hiatus for a while.
I don't know that they'll hiatus it. I think that.
Well, didn't they announce a movie supposedly in like 5, like in a
The
ridiculously
plan
long
is
way?
the theory is there's going to be a season 4, and fundamentally the plan that was said at Star Wars Celebration that Filoni was going to do a movie that completely wraps the Mandalorian storyline.
Yeah, but wasn't it going to be like in 7 years or some ridiculously long time frame
It's
or
a
something?
ways away, which is why I
Yeah.
was making the comment earlier. I think I said it when you came back, or after you came back from your call. My concern with Disney right now, as it respects the LucasArts division or Lucasfilm division, is they've been announcing and canceling stuff
Yeah.
like,
So, like,
the most bipolar outfit ever. And
until I see like a trailer for something, I don't know.
Yeah,
if
to
I'm
actually
gonna
to use a play right out of your book, Mike. At this point, until I actually see a trailer run for anything,
Oh yeah, I don't believe it's happening until I see a trailer.
Yeah.
The Acolyte, don't believe it. You know, the only reason why I believe the Ahsoka show at this point is because we've actually got
seen the
full
trailer.
Ahsoka trailers.
Now,
Yeah.
I do think there's a good possibility of a Mando season 4. I do think there's a good possibility we're going to see Ahsoka season 1 and 2. And as long as they continue, like, I think that if they recover from the stumble that was season 3, I think that the Disney Plus Star Wars will continue to thrive. But they do need to recover from. I do think Mando season 3 was a stumble. I think
go ahead, sorry.
But I don't think it was a catastrophic failure. I think it was a stumble.
Well, it's definitely.
I think the Boba Fett was a catastrophic failure.
Yeah, that was just a.
But I think this was a stumble. You know,
Ahsoka is right at the same time period as we're in right now. Acolyte is supposed to be from 100 years in the past.
Right. Acolyte is the beginning of the rise of the Sith.
Yeah.
And so it's about the first Sith.
Yeah. That's the homework, isn't it, Danny?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And that's why I
Well,
don't want it. I don't want stuff that's like, oh, this is
No.
going to tell the story of the origin of the old Republic. No, I don't know. No. Just move forward.
What is it with all these franchises?
Yeah.
You know, whether it's Star Wars or Star Trek, going into the past and
I'm not.
Can't we move it forward?
People.
Can't
Don't
we?
do it. Just don't do it. But by the way, Danny, I'm going to cheer you up here. All right.
Yeah.
Look at the link I just put in the private chat.
Okay. Let me see here.
Oh
my!
This is the ride you're
gonna
getting
see
into for
that
Battlestar.
a lot in the next few weeks.
Oh my God!
That is one of the main characters of Battlestar Galactica, and that is what she looks like in the show.
Oh my God! Really?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, if you guys thought I was bad talking about Beverly Crusher,
yeah, that is.
Don't worry.
Wait.
Mike
Danny,
and I have already been
in,
stealing ourselves up for this.
Yeah, that is her. That is her in her Battlestar Galactica costume. I'm not kidding.
Get out of here! Is that really
That
her
is
costume?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What is she, a stripper on this show? I mean, good lord.
No, but you okay? Honestly, BSG is
by the way,
more than
she
just her.
Yeah,
but
she is one of the main characters.
You're not going to have too much trouble watching this show.
Yeah. Yeah, she also, by the way, she is a very, we'll just say, carnal character.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. What's this show rated? What's this show rated? What,
This
did it air on like HBO
this
or
show
something?
absolutely pushes what you could put on broadcast television.
Oh wow!
Pushes.
What time for was this in the 2000s?
It was on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah, it was in the 2000
they,
aughts.
Yeah, it was in the 2000 aughts, and they absolutely, the Sci-Fi Channel pushed back on them a lot as far as the content they put on.
Okay, it's rated PG-13 plus for TV. Yeah, they dialed it as hard to the edge as they could.
Yes, Chief Cook, exactly. But don't tell him anything he has not seen it.
Yeah.
So do not tell him anything about the character. Yeah. Don't tell him anything about what the character does, please.
And by the way, she's a
no. That's actually not the character's name. Chief Cook is wrong, but but I know who he's thinking of, and that's why I said yes.
She's a straight up Amazon, by the way. She's 6'1".
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah, she's a supermodel. In fact, the funny thing is, she was cast. This was her first major acting job. She was cast because she was a model, not because she was an actress. She was cast solely based on her looks.
And it turns out she can act.
And she acted her butt off in this show. She did really well. And so I was actually very impressed because you will be amazed at you'll love what you see of her. But
she does a lot of like voice work too, like video game stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. After this, she became absolute nerd royalty. And so, but don't look her up as far as Battlestar Galactica because you don't want to know.
Okay.
The less you know going into the show, the better, because it's gonna blow your mind. And so, but yeah.
Wow.
But yeah,
I guess she's only 5'11", but yeah, she's ridiculous.
Yeah, only 5'11". Yeah. Only 5'11" for someone like that. That is, that's only 2 inches shorter than me.
Well,
and I'm 6'1". That's God. 2 inches shorter than me, and I'm on the tall side. I very rarely look up at people.
Yeah, if she walked in,
and Mercer, I said hi, buddy. I said hi in the chat a few minutes ago. But yeah, so 5'11" is my new. And she always wears heels, which means that with her heels on and the length of heels she wears, she'll be taller than me.
Well, I don't know. Don't make your selection yet, Danny. There's still more to see.
And by the way, Danny, I will tell you, she's not the only one on this show.
Oh my.
So yes,
I don't think we're going to have too much trouble scheduling time to do live reactions with Danny now.
And so that's where so I wanted to transition to what we're going to be doing. So Danny has never seen the remake of Battlestar Galactica, the one that came out in 2003 2004.
Have you actually I don't think we asked
and yes, Stanley,
did you ever see the original?
No, I never did. Never
really?
Okay, so this will be interesting.
It might be fun after we get through it because it'll probably, because since we'll have Strange New Worlds and Ahsoka in the way, but after we get through Battlestar Galactica, we may go back and watch the original so you can kind of compare it because there are some stories that are taken right from the original but are changed radically.
Yeah. And yes, Trisha is from Canada. Yeah.
Yes, she is the finest export that Canada's ever had.
Hey man, I don't know. I find that most Canadian women are I don't know what they're doing up there or what's in the
all the good Canadian women move
keep it up, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so back to so Danny has never seen BSG. So we're going to, starting sometime in this coming week, the three of us are going to watch BSG together, starting with the miniseries, and then we're going to work our way through all 4 seasons, and we'll watch it together as a group, and then with a live reaction. I will cut together like the best little moments of the live reaction as a little video on the channel. If you want to see the full live reaction, that'll only be available for Patreons because copyright and stuff. I can't put that on YouTube.
Right.
But Patreons will be able to see like the entire hour plus video of the live reaction if they want to. then we'll take the time that we normally have been spending talking about the Mandalorian and Picard, and be talking about what we've watched of Battlestar Galactica. And so kind of going through the entire season. So that means that since we won't have, for right now, we will not have any Star Trek or Star Wars until Strange New World starts, we can actually do 2 nights of it. And then once Strange New World starts, we'll be able to do Strange New Worlds one night and Battlestar Galactica the other.
Okay, so Katie Sackhoff is in this show also. Huh?
This was Katie Sackhoff's big break. This is what made her a star.
Yeah, this is also why it frustrated me that they didn't let her really run with her portrayal of Bo-Katan in Real People version, because she does the Bo-Katan's voice throughout every piece of the Star Wars cartoon.
Right. But Katie Sackhoff 20 years ago, this was what made her an actress.
Yeah, she was all of 23 years old, 22 years old.
Danny, stop.
She was.
No, I'm just looking at images.
IMDb doesn't have videos of the entire show.
Yes, I know, but he's going to learn the plot, and then he's going to know what.
No, not at all. No, I won't. I'd like to be surprised.
Yes,
but yeah, I mean, there's a ton of people's faces that you're going to see in these.
Yeah, people that are been around now for a long time got their start on Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah. And some classics that you will recognize as well.
Yeah, like
it's a no-brainer to point at Edward James Olmos, because Miami Vice as well as Blade Runner. He's been around forever. But yeah, there's I don't. These aren't spoilers, because you see these people nearly immediately at the start of the first half of the miniseries. But Mary McDonnell, you may not know her by name, but you'll recognize her face right away when you see her, because she was in a ton of movies in the late 80s and early 90s. So if you ever saw the movie Sneakers, the one with Robert Redford, she was his love interest in that movie.
Oh, okay.
So so she's there's all kinds of people like that come in and have long. She plays Madam President. Yeah.
So I have a question then, because and I'm not looking up things, Michael, before you get mad. 2003, there was a Battlestar Galactica TV miniseries, and then
that's what we're going to start with.
Yeah, and then 2007, I guess there's a TV movie called Battlestar Galactica Razor.
That came out. Yeah. So here's how it worked: is that in 2003 we had the miniseries, and in 2004 we had the series that went for 4 seasons. And then Razor was a movie that takes place during season 3.
Yeah, it was supposed to actually be a pair of episodes, but they turned it into a feature.
Right. And it's really good.
Oh, it's
Razor is actually among the best of the entire
So are we going to watch it in chronological order, or are we going to watch it in release order?
That's a tough one, because Razor is one of those ones that it's like you definitely need to watch Razor after the events that Razor takes place during. You can't watch
because Razor actually jumps around.
If you watched it at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Razor actually covers events that happen during the miniseries and then leaps forward to cover events that are happening during season 3.
Is Ro Laren in it?
Oh,
is that
yeah.
You see, stop looking.
It's just the cover of the
looking.
Okay.
The box art. I'm telling you,
it's
man.
just the
okay.
All right. I closed IMDb.
Honestly,
there's another big one that we were talking about earlier that you're.
I can't wait to. I actually can't wait to see if you recognize somebody else that's going to show up later in the series.
Yeah,
but it's just one of those moments where it's gonna and because we're a little closer in age to you and I than Mike and I even that. It's going to stand out a little bit more to you.
I spoil it now. I'm like,
no.
I'm like so tempted.
No, let's not. Let's not. Come on.
But yeah, believe me, when we start getting through even the first season of Galactica, this is going to be Galactica for me is like if someone were to get super frustrated with me constantly running to the Expanse as being absolutely awesome science fiction that's gritty and yet not morose. Battlestar Galactica, the reboot, is an absolute fantastic piece of science fiction.
Yeah.
Excellent story writing, excellent editing, excellent special effects, especially for the time. The cast that they have in this, even the people like Katie Sackhoff and Trisha Helfer, who basically hardly did anything or nothing before they did this show, and they're just belting it out.
I've said
so
this,
good.
and I maintain to, it's now 2023, April. This is the best sci-fi series of the 21st century, in my opinion. And yes, I include The Expanse in that, because even though I love The Expanse, I think The Expanse is great, but Battlestar Galactica is more focused than The Expanse. And I think I think the characters are better, have a better arc throughout the 4 years than The Expanse. And
I like The Expanse,
but I think this is a better show overall than The Expanse.
When they got rid of Thomas Jane's character, I kind of, I won't say I lost interest, but like he was I was really digging his character, the whole like space noir detective shit. And I actually haven't even finished the last season, not because I didn't like, and I need to go. I did like it a lot.
Season 6, you mean?
Whatever the final season is, I haven't
6.
finished.
So you saw Jane as the Invisible Man in season 4, then, right?
Yeah.
So you were on like when they were down on the planet, and Holden was the only one who could see him the whole time.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that he was. Yeah, I love the fact that he was back.
Yeah.
Like actually, that would have started in season 3 even too, because in season 3 they went down to the space station.
No, was it? Because
three was the one where they
was
opened
completely
the gate.
out of one season, wasn't he? He was completely out.
He was half out of season 3. Because remember when the gate got opened and then they ended up going into the gate. Once the gate got actually opened up by the crazy slingshotter, that's what caused Holden to be able to start talking to the
whatever the mycelial network.
Not detective.
The Star Trek Discovery.
Right.
Yeah. The only problem that sucked with that character was the entire arc that was built for the entire story that is the Expanse series required that he die off. It sucked because I really like Tom.
Yeah, it's like the fact that he dies in season 1 was like,
if they had a lesser actor in that role, the bad part is the role wouldn't have worked.
But then he couldn't have carried it.
And then, but at least then I wouldn't have been so pissed off when they.
Yeah,
right. It's
like, well, it was nice to see he directed some episodes after his character died.
I didn't pay attention to that.
Yeah, it's kind of like how I felt with Shaw in Picard. It's like I really like Shaw, and then they kill him.
Shaw's so good. Like I feel like
we need a world between worlds for that. Someone's got to do.
Oh man, they somehow got to retcon Shaw and make him alive.
No, they don't have to retcon anything. The transporter. Just a transporter.
Just take a page out of season 2 of
you're saving so much DNA. Remember, they were saving DNA in the transporter buffer to fix everybody from the Borg, and look, we got some Shaw DNA. We just put it back together.
If we can Millennium Falcon through a Borg cube, we can bring back Shaw.
We can bring back Captain Liam Shaw. Yes,
and hey, they've got the saucer section of the D. Yeah. And that's where the transporter rooms were that they used to resurrect Picard from the cloud in season 2.
Yeah. So I'd say they just resurrect Shaw.
Just do it. Look, I'd forgive them for so many things if they did that.
I will tell you right now, I will forgive the Millennium Enterprise if they resurrect Shaw.
Well, we'll talk about that tomorrow. We've got like 4 minutes before I got to dip. Why don't we go around and do our final thoughts on Mandalorian score
and all that? So go ahead and do the.
So we'll start in reverse.
Oh, okay.
Daniel.
So I had hope. Okay, so I had hope in the penultimate episode, and they dashed all of my hopes with the finale. The second episode, like overall this season, I'm being nice. I'd have to give it a 2 out of 10. It was just awful. nothing against Bo-Katan. I mean, I like certain things. There wasn't enough out of however many 8 hours, or not even 8 hours. God, most episodes were only like 30 minutes. So however long, 4 or 5 hours worth of viewing. I maybe only popped for 15, 20 minutes of it, and that was it. So this is, I hate to be a negative Nancy. I'm usually a little bit more positive and not so salty, but this is a turd of a season for as far as I'm concerned. So 2.
And to use the approach that 2 is perfectly fair, because I know you'd never go back and deliberately watch this on your own.
Yeah, never.
I honestly have to say that the only thing that I would watch out of this is a clip show, so I have to actually give the whole season a 4, because I'd rather watch paint dry.
Yeah,
I really would. It sucks to say that, but other than a clip show, where if I did like a super fan edit, no, I have no desire to go back and rewatch the show. And that's considering the fact that technically I've watched the show a couple odd times, some of the episodes more than twice. And no,
it just doesn't for me. It doesn't have rewatchability. It really doesn't.
Other than the clips, right? Like the crazy, when they were dealing with those TIE fighters
and stuff like that
on Concordia, and she did the crazy, Tom Cruise Top Gun Turney McBob with her gauntlet. I mean, there's a lot of there were again a lot of cool things, but that's just a clip show,
right?
So it's a 4.
Well, obviously, these two guys are stupid, but because they can't recognize decent entertainment when they see it. But I'm obviously, if you listen to me, I don't think it's a flawless show. I do think this was the weakest of the Mandalorian seasons by a significant margin. So I'm not going to pretend it wasn't. But it's no Boba Fett, right? It's not an absolute train wreck, and I would rather watch this than paint dry. And so I am going, and I like Thomas says tomorrow. I like that.
Thomas,
I'm going to give it a 3, Jason a 4, and Danny a 10. You're probably, well, Danny.
No, he's actually definitely wrong on 1. I'm going to be a surprise tomorrow, but I'm not going to say by how much.
I have already, I've binge watched it 4 times already.
Yeah, so Danny's definitely a 10. But anyway, but we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about this. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. I found that it has entertainment quality, but it's not great entertainment quality, and which I hate saying, because I love the characters, I love what the Mandalorian has been, but this is just not good for the Mandalorian. I'm hoping next season is better, and despite this mess, I'm looking forward to next season. And I'm looking forward to where the Mandoverse goes, because I do think that the story moved forward in an interesting way, even if this season moved forward in a very clunky fashion.
See, Chief knows what's up. I gave it a 2. He gave it a 3. Jason gave it a 4. It's below 5. That's where it should be. And Thomas Potts,
if you delete,
Thomas gave it 7.
Dude,
So
7.
Thomas gives it a hard 7.
I know.
Yeah. If you delete Lieutenant Biscuits, and you delete the guest appearance episode, I think
I could make a supercut out of this season.
I would actually move it to a 5.5, maybe a 6. And that's as far as I would go, because the hot mess of a betrayal that was the finale episode for the season. No.
Okay, how much you pay me if I can get it to a 7?
It's not possible.
Okay, so how much you pay me if I can get it to a 7?
I'll buy you something real nice in Florida.
Okay, all right. I'll get it to a 7 for you. I will do it. You just watch. If I get it to a 7, I expect something real nice from Florida.
See, Stanley, please, hard 6. If I were being
Hey,
generous,
you know what?
my
Stanley,
mom even gave it a 5.
And Danny has no idea what this is going to mean, but he'll understand by the end of the year. Sometimes you just got to roll the hard 6. See, do you remember that, Jason?
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
So that's something you're going to hear in Galactica a bunch of times.
Yeah.
I'm actually really looking forward to it. You know, I got to dip out to answer my mom's question. It's the Nerdrotic meetup. Yeah, I'll call probably on the way there. I'm not driving. I'm taking photos of the Nerdrotic meetup at the Millennium Phantom Bar, and
remember, please do say hi for me. Because I can never get a hold of the guy, but you know, do say hi for me because I genuinely hope he's doing well, even though I throw shade at him. I do think I think Gary's a nice
he seems
guy.
to be. I got to meet him and his wife last night. I got to hang out with Chris Gore and Robert Meyer Burnett, and they're all going to be at the thing tonight as well. So, and I don't know if you've noticed I really do have to go, but shoot, if you check out the Salty Nerds Twitter, they're having a blast having all these people come to their studio this week.
Did you see? Oh, well, actually, you saw Danny, but Mike, they crossed 10,000.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw.
Dude, Vader last night. Vader kept refreshing it on his phone. It was so funny, just like because they were so close, and they finally hit it, and that's when he did the screenshot. It was so funny.
All right, go. Say hi to him for me. Don't do anything stupid. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right, brother. Man. Take care, guys.
Yeah.
All right, and so with that, Danny will now promptly go do something stupid.
But he's got to take pictures, so he's got to be at least halfway responsible. So there you go.
No, he's going to do something really stupid and take pictures of it.
I like Thomas.
Yeah.
You know what, Thomas? I don't know if I could pull that off.
If he did that, then when he comes to Murfreesboro, he's going to be really...
It would be my luck. I try to cross the border, and that's the time CBP decides to do a search, and they're like, "Why is there a large volume of maple syrup in your car, sir?"
Oh, by the way, Thomas, just for those of you that don't know, Thomas was recently in Murfreesboro. He stopped by. We actually had lunch at a nice little restaurant here in Murfreesboro. I figure we might go there too. It's something my wife likes to affectionately call the Hillbilly Buffet, because it's a buffet owned by some local folks. Very, and so it's a country themed buffet, but it's actually pretty good. It's not like the kind of buffet you're embarrassed to go to, like Golden Corral or
So it's at least a Bob Evans. No.
Oh no, it's actually, I gotta say, like on Sunday, it's actually pretty good. So the and the owners are usually there for Sunday morning, and like the owner actually, it's kind of funny. The owner actually comes out and says grace over the food in front of the customers as they open up. But they're really nice people, and the food is actually really good. And you can tell that it's not like shipped in a truck. Like grab the hose and spray the corn in.
So they didn't have baked beans.
Well, sorry, Thomas. But anyway, Thomas went to the local battlefield here in Murfreesboro because there's a Civil War battlefield here in town. And what's interesting is that one of the Civil War era cannons on that battlefield turned up missing shortly thereafter. It's not there today. And so we have confirmed that thanks to Thomas Potts, we have a cannon violation.
Wow. Are you waiting for Thomas to respond?
See, that was my dad joke of my nerdy dad joke of the night.
Yeah.
But no, they actually do. It's kind of cool. If you drive down this one road, they actually have the cannons in their original position, and they're right by the side of the road.
That's cool.
And then you can drive down to the other side of the battlefield and see where the other cannons were in the tree line.
Neat.
And the defensive position on the tree line is a brilliant position when you go and look at it. I don't know if you went there, Thomas, but yeah, when I could walk better, I actually went there with Lore Reloaded, and it's a great place it's a perfectly defensible spot. You didn't find the spot where I was wounded in the battle. Well, you should have asked me. I would have come with you and shown you. Next time you're in town, Thomas, I'll go with you and show you. We'll do a video. Well, this is where I fought.
You could call it Wounded Knee.
Yeah. So, but it's that. But like I said, the original cannons are actually still there. Most of them. The cannons that were lost over time, they actually put these like silhouettes of cannons where those cannons would have stood.
Cool.
But the original cannons that they still have are actually still there, which I think is pretty cool.
Cool.
And so, but I'm sure Thomas probably did steal one for his collection of stuff because, Thomas
put it alongside all the starships.
Yeah. I mean, it would. Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't take a Civil War cannon and strap it on top of the Enterprise D for the battle with the Borg, and say, "Oh, that'll work." Anyway, so remember, you are the salt of the earth. Danny's doing something probably really stupid right now. Jason smiles way the heck too much. Looking forward to some Battlestar Galactica. Got the first couple of episodes rendered out. Do you remember the coming soon? There's going to be some really cool stuff coming up on the Patreon at Onyx and Zircon. I know you trust me. It's we actually have some content coming for Patreon supporters. I'm very excited. Not more than just being able to watch us. It's me and Jason were talking about it. There's actual stuff. I'm so excited. And so at 2 different levels, we have 2 different levels of stuff. That's so cool.
Stuff and more stuff.
Stuff and more stuff. The stuff should have ready to go as soon as we get our first reaction video done for Battlestar Galactica, because it'll be with that. The more stuff should have ready to go about a week after. So at least, but the more stuff will be at a higher access level. So, better fork over the money. I'm a greedy bastard. So, and Access Radio says respected D. Heck no. The D is garbage. It's fat. It's ugly. And it should not be flying like an X-Wing. And we'll talk about that tomorrow. And just in time, we escaped LDG. But of course, we already know that Bondage Brittany and LDG are in fact
the same people.
Just a fact.